What's up guys, and welcome finally to my F1 2017 career mode. And in this series we are going to be following the journey of the Ferrari young driver Antonio Giovinazzi as he starts his Formula 1 journey in pursuit of a seat at Ferrari. The 2016 GP2 runner-up has been given a seat at Haas, of course, the effective Ferrari junior team, and over the course of this season he is going to be partnering Romain Grosjean, the experienced Frenchman, so it's going to be a very tough test for Antonio. But of course, if he is to get to that Ferrari seat, he is going to have to out-compete the Frenchman. So in the pre-season testing, you can see there taking place at the Catalunya circuit in Barcelona, it was looking evident that once again, just like in 2016, Haas were going to be in the middle of the midfield, probably battling for 5th position alongside Williams, Toro Rosso and Renault. This season, Renault have gone for an interesting driver lineup, with Nico Hülkenberg leaving Force India for the Renault team, and he will be partnering Jolyon Palmer. At Toro Rosso, it is going to be Carlos Sainz and Daniel Kvyat, both of which are looking to impress the senior Red Bull team for 2018. And then there is Williams, who have gone for a contrasting driver lineup, youth and experience, with Lance Stroll, the young Canadian, partnering Felipe Massa, although they look as if they may have tailed off and have fallen right back into the midfield. Before we get into Friday practice then, you can see Antonio meeting with his agent Emma Jenkins, who has managed to get him this seat at Haas for 2017, and she will be pushing for a seat at Ferrari in 2018, providing Antonio can meet the expectations of the team. Also, before getting out onto the track, he met up with his R&D engineer Chris, who is going to be recommending and just talking to Antonio about how to upgrade the car over the course of the season, and hopefully that can get us right up the field as we go through the season. So then, jumping into the first practice session of the season, and of course we've got quite a few practice programs to be going through for the Haas guys. So we're going to start off with the track acclimatization. Obviously the first time Antonio has driven around this circuit, it isn't on the GP2 calendar, and these F1 cars are different beasts. So on his first lap there, going right to the end of the lap, it was looking very good, but just missing one of the gates and then outbraking himself on the next lap into turn 3. But that is exactly what this test is for, just dialing into the track. And eventually, after going all purple until the last 2 gates, he managed to complete the track acclimatization with flying colours. So getting purple on that, and also on the tyre wear, maximum points on that. So of course, this year it's looking like a one-stop race around this circuit. So yeah, it wasn't too difficult to complete that. Fuel saving, however, obviously it's always very tricky around Albert Park, so we're managing to pass it, but just not with purple. And then as we go onto the race strategy now, you can see a little bit of race strategy coming into play. Obviously having to overtake another car, being Pascal Wehrlein, and he had to dive down the inside there, although he ended up getting a red on that lap. Still managed to complete it and get a purple time overall. So all in all, it was looking pretty good with just the qualifying lap to go. And there you can see, beating the time by 0.137 seconds, meeting the target of the team. Just couldn't quite get into the purple top 7, but nonetheless, we managed to finish 8th in that session. Antonio doing a very, very good job, outdoing his teammate, although he was on a different tyre. Now we take a look at the R&D tree. So we're deciding to go down the aerodynamics path, because you can see there that we are actually the 2nd worst team for aerodynamics, toying between the front wing or rear wing main plane. In the end, deciding to go for the rear wing because yeah, just want to improve that rear stability. You know, the tail really likes to kick out, and also going for a durability one as well, seeing as it was only 500 resource points. So that leaves us with 1,000 left over. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts down in the comments on what we should spend it on. But without further ado, we get into the first qualifying session of the season, and it is soaking wet here in Melbourne. So the team sending Antonio out pretty early on in the session, in fact within the first minute or so, being one of the first cars out on track, you know, just to try and get used to it, because of course it is the first time he's ever driven one of these cars in the wet. And you can see there going into turn 1 just how slippy it is, and also the weather was expected to get worse as the session went on. So onto the first flying lap, and you can just see how difficult it is. Somehow Antonio manages to keep it out of the wall. But boy, that could have ended in disaster without even getting a time on the board. But he did manage to keep it out of the wall, and on the next lap you can see 12.5 or nearly 13 seconds up on the previous lap time. But coming through the final corner there, just wrestling the car. Even though these 2017 cars have a lot more grip, still ever so difficult. So going into P8, in fact splitting the two Renaults, that then knocked down to P13 as more drivers sort of got their laps in. But now we've got just 40 seconds or 30 seconds to go in the session, so this is the time for the big lap now. Everybody is out on the track. This is the prime conditions to set a good lap, and yeah, we were pretty much equal going through turn 1, and that stayed the same for pretty much the whole lap. You can see there as we go through this final complex of corners, that was that right-hander was the first time we'd actually managed to even get just a tenth up on our previous time. But there you can just see the tail kicking out. That is exactly why we need more rear stability. So as we come through the final corner, we're in fact down on our previous qualifying time, and although we're gaining to the line, it just isn't enough to improve. And after all is said and done, we are down in P18. Antonio, it's just not an ideal start to his life at Haas. But as we take a look at the grid, it's an all-finish front row for the race on Sunday. Raikkonen taking pole ahead of Bottas, with Vettel and Ricciardo on the second row. So very poor qualifying for Hamilton. He'll start alongside Verstappen with an all-Williams fourth row. Hulkenberg and Sainz completing the top 10. Then it's Perez, Kvyat, Ocon, Palmer, Alonso, Ericsson, Wehrlein, Giovinazzi, Van Dorn, and an awful qualifying for Giovinazzi's teammate Grosjean starting in last place. But now getting onto the grid for the first race of this Road to Ferrari career mode, and it is beautiful sunshine, a complete contrast to qualifying on Saturday. Literally couldn't have been more opposite. And there you can see the pole sitter Kimi Raikkonen, who will just be looking for a trouble-free Grand Prix. So there you can see Giovinazzi sitting on the grid ahead of his first ever Formula 1 race, and the Haas guys just trying to calm him down at this stage. But as we take a look at the race strategy, it is looking like a one-stop. Not going to touch those ultra soft tyres, and of course, seeing as the qualifying session was wet, free choice of tyres, and we're actually going to go for super soft and then soft. Try and get a good start, get up the order, seeing as we are starting in P18. So yeah, get the quicker tyre on the car first, strapped on first, and as you see us here on the formation lap, it looks as if in the bottom half of the order, and even in the top half, there's a little bit of a split of strategy. So the pole sitter there, Kimi Raikkonen, going for the super softs, and I'd imagine most drivers are just going to completely disregard the ultras today. They just don't seem to be going far enough into the Grand Prix. But now as we come round around the final corner, lining up on the grid, you can see there Palmer in the bottom left corner. Not a great qualifying from him, just behind his teammate who managed to get into the top 10. But Haas will be looking for a much better Sunday than Saturday was, revving up to the 5 red lights for F1 2017 career mode, and we are away. And what a start it has been from Giovinazzi, getting past the two Saubers and the McLaren Honda of Fernando Alonso before we've even got into turn 1, and he's a little bit tentative there, and his teammate has in fact gone down the inside of him. A great start from Grosjean from the back of the grid. Of course, he is on the soft tyres, so Giovinazzi looking to try and get ahead of his teammate early on, but he's been squeezed out by Grosjean. No love lost between the two drivers, even this early on in the championship, as Grosjean up into P15 and Giovinazzi stays in 16th, and there is just an ongoing battle between the two Haas guys, and boy oh boy, this is going to shape up to be a fantastic Australian Grand Prix if it stays like this at the moment. Everyone now starting to settle into a rhythm as we're halfway into the first lap in P16, so Giovinazzi making up 2 positions, but still a little bit of a bittersweet first lap, seeing as his teammate, who started 2 positions behind, is now ahead of him. But as we go on to the end of lap 1 and start of lap 2, this is going to be the opportunity possibly to try and get ahead of his teammate, maybe even catch him napping, as Grosjean is eyeing up the Renault of Jolyon Palmer, who is also on the soft tyres. So as we go down into turn 2, you see gaining and gaining. Giovinazzi thought of making a move down the inside, but thought better of it in the end. And this part of the circuit, I can tell you guys, it is so satisfying as we go through here. And yeah, it's just a brilliant track to drive on this new game. Now on to lap 3 again. Grosjean possibly taking a look at Palmer. Brakes very early. Giovinazzi the complete opposite. A little bit of a lock-up on the inside front. But what a move on his teammate. And that is a brilliant move from the young Italian. And that is just a little bit of a statement maybe. Just to say, you know what? I'm going to let you know who's boss in this team. You know, I'm going to let you know who is the rising star in Formula 1. And Giovinazzi gets past his teammate as early as lap 3. So that allowed him then to attack Jolyon Palmer going on to lap 4. And turn 3 is looking like a very tasty position to make up you know, make up some places in this Grand Prix. Of course, that run down to turn 1, very difficult to make an overtaking move. It really does tighten into the first corner, and then of course you get a poor exit into the second DRS zone, leaving you vulnerable. Also, this little opportunity into turn 9 and 10 is a very good chance to make up a position, possibly as we break now down into 4th gear. And you know, that track, this track on older games has been, you know, sort of a 2nd or 3rd gear corner. So yeah, it took a little bit of adjusting to you know, to get into 4th, but definitely gets very good traction. And as now we sweep through turns 11 and 12, really satisfying to do so, keeping it in 6th gear. And we're just going to ride on board here with Giovinazzi until the end of the lap, just to give you an idea of where we're gaining and losing time as we you know, go across this lap. But still, Giovinazzi within range of Palmer, and there's a really big train in this midfield. And I can tell you guys, there is going to be a fantastic midfield fight over the course of this season. But Giovinazzi now getting on the DRS down into turn 1, and yeah, it's just not really close enough to even think about making a move into the first turn. But keeping it in 5th gear, again, that is a corner that's been 4th gear traditionally over the course of the years. But now going down into turn 3, is he going to be able to make a move down the inside? Moving towards the inside, and once again it's an audacious move. Palmer sort of moves to the inside to defend, and he's going to do so very aggressively, and sort of moves to the outside of the circuit, not giving Giovinazzi an inch there to try and overtake. And that leaves him now vulnerable to Romain Grosjean once again. And obviously with Grosjean being on the soft tyres, it's looking at the moment as if that might have been a very good decision to, you know, on this first stint, managed to, you know, go on the harder compound. But now Giovinazzi making a do-or-die move down the inside of Palmer. He just wants to try and get a car between himself and his teammates, so manages to do so up into P14. And boy, it feels like we've been through a whole Grand Prix already, and we're only on lap 6, and this is just fighting over P14. So yeah, it could be a very long Grand Prix if we're going to be fighting for these positions. But yeah, a few cars possibly going for the 2 stoppers, because you can see we're now up to P13. I believe it was Carlos Sainz possibly into the pit lane. I think it was one of the Toro Rossos anyway, which bumped us up a position. But anyway, on to lap 9. This is when we were really starting to you know, see Giovinazzi close up to the train of cars ahead. Ocon was about two seconds ahead, but now that is very much down below a second. And going down the inside, it's Felipe Massa who's caused this carnage. Kvyat gets caught up in it as well, and there you can see yellow flags as Ocon manages to get past us. And yeah, we sort of had to let him back through, and yes, we've got a safety car. Is it a virtual safety car? Yes, it is a virtual safety car. So I was going to say, a little bit extreme to bring out the full safety car. But yeah, here we take a look at a replay of just what happened. So Massa just completely outbrakes himself, maybe experiencing some brake problems that the Haas usually has. But there you can see him and Kvyat just coming to blows, and that is not a pretty sight at all for Felipe Massa, nor Daniel Kvyat either. But anyway, on to the next lap, and you can see virtual safety car ending just at the wrong time really for Giovinazzi, because he was getting a nice little run on Ocon. But seeing as it ended in the virtual safety car zone, that wasn't great whatsoever. But you may have seen there, Sebastian Vettel has retired from this race, so he's just going about his business. I believe he was in P4 at the time, and going through this second sector, He looks to be slowing down even at this stage, and I'm intrigued to see what the issue was. And yeah, he just sort of pulls over to the side of the road, so not quite sure what the problem was. Possibly a problem with the turbo or the internal combustion unit. But yeah, that is very, very surprising. No smoke, however, coming from the engine. So yeah, I'm not quite sure what the problem was, but nonetheless, it's going to be no points for the 4 times world champion this afternoon. And there you can see we're still chasing after Ocon on board here, and it's just looking very, very difficult at the moment. Giovinazzi up into P9 at the moment. You know, we're obviously in the pit stop phase, and it's lap 13, and yeah, we're you can see that from the wheel movements that it is very difficult to control the car at the moment. And sure enough, the Haas guys call Gio into the pit lane at the end of lap 13. So slowing it down onto the pit limiter, of course, that is another new feature for this year. And there you can see the Force India guys servicing Sergio Perez, I believe, at the moment, but going into the pit box now, manually releasing ourselves this year. Again, another new feature. So yeah, that's another nice little addition to the game. But yeah, very good pit stop, in fact, 2.8 seconds, which isn't too shabby whatsoever. Don't expect sort of sub 2 second pit stops this year, seeing as obviously the tyres are a lot heavier. But as we come out of the pit lane, it just looks as if the Haas guys have completely timed that wrong. And Giovinazzi is emerged behind Stoffel Van Dorn, who's not making it easy for the Italian to go round him. But he does manage to do so, and this is completely hindering him at the moment. Of course, Ocon is going for an extra lap. Yeah, that is just not going to be beneficial whatsoever. And now Felipe Massa, who is definitely nursing some sort of brake issue. You know, Giovinazzi just had to get past him if he was to, you know, stand any chance of getting past Ocon in the pits, in the pit phase. But anyway, up into P14, of course, Massa's issues are now holding up. Even the McLaren Honda just showing the extent of those issues. But now we have got the I believe it's a Toro Rosso of Sainz and also a Sauber ahead of us. So Sainz has already pitted once, so yes, it was him that was in the pit lane. He's in fact gone for the Ultra Softs. But now emerging from the pit lane is Esteban Ocon, and he's already gone through turns 1 and 2 before we've even made it to the first corner. So while coming out behind the McLaren Honda has completely ruined our chances of jumping him. But now Giovinazzi realises he has to get past Wehrlein if he's got any chance of getting a good points finish this afternoon. And that was a lovely move down the inside of the German. But now coming towards the end of lap 15. Oh, my word, what a move that is down the inside. Caught Carlos Sainz napping up into P12. So that is a lovely move from the Italian. And now it's Nico Hülkenberg up next, who's also had some engine issues during this Grand Prix. You can see he's very much down on power. And now Giovinazzi getting directly behind Esteban Ocon, braking very late there down to the first corner. And, you know, blocking any chance of Hülkenberg managing to get past him. But braking now into turn 3, a little bit late on the brakes. But anyway, later on lap 16 and towards the start of lap 17, you can see Romain Grosjean, the yellow dot on the mini-map, is emerging from the pit lane, and he has jumped us once again. That traffic has come back to haunt us. He is directly behind Esteban Ocon, so doesn't manage to jump the Frenchman, but he does jump ourselves. So yeah, this is very, very disappointing. Obviously, Grosjean started behind us, qualified at the back, and he is now sitting in a points-paying position. So very, very good from the Frenchman, but Antonio is going to have to get past him in order to impress the team on his debut. I mean, it's still been a very good race from him, but nonetheless, as we go on to the start of lap 18, we've lost a lot of time to the two guys ahead, and Antonio is now found himself behind Lance Stroll, the debutant, of course, this afternoon. And is he going to go for a move down the inside into turn 3, his favourite overtaking spot? Sure he does, up into P9, and now it's looking as if everybody has made their final pit stops. And this is, you know, what we're expecting the final positions to look like, you know, barring any retirement. So on to lap 20, Grosjean has managed to get past Ocon, and with him being on the super soft tyres, whereas myself, or Giovinazzi and Ocon are on the soft tyres. He's just completely bolted into the distance. So we've got 9 laps left in this Grand Prix, and then you can see there's a safety car that has been deployed. Stoffel Van Dorn is out of the race. Unsurprisingly, we've lost the McLaren Honda, and on an afternoon where he completely wrecked Antonio's race, he's ended up only to retire. So you can see here, going on the back straight, he just pulls off to the side, and another mechanical failure, and it's not looking good for the McLaren guys. But anyway, the safety car was out for a good 3 laps. And now we are preparing to resume to racing speed. So as we go towards now the penultimate corner, we are now under green flag conditions. Antonio trying to get a good exit out of this final corner, which he hasn't been doing too well out of all afternoon. But going now towards turn 1, Ocon off into the distance, and Lance Stroll is behind Antonio at the moment on the super soft tyres, so he is definitely one to watch out for at the end of this Grand Prix. But on to lap 27, we have 2 titanic battles going on. It's a Force India versus Haas battle. We've got Perez in 6th ahead of Grosjean in 7th, then of course Ocon ahead of Giovinazzi in P8 and P9. So currently it's the Force Indias coming out on top as we see Marcus Ericsson retire from this race. It's almost becoming a race of attrition towards the end of this Grand Prix. Obviously, though, it is the first race of the season and reliability issues will occur, and that is a just straight up engine failure for Marcus Ericsson. He's going to be needing a new internal combustion engine for the Chinese Grand Prix. But now as we go back on board with Antonio, it's the end of lap 27. He's only got 2 more laps to try and get ahead of Ocon, and you can see in P8, 9 and 10 are all drivers who have never scored an F1 point in their careers. So Ocon, it's his rookie season. Of course, he did have half a season with Manor at the end of 2016, but has never fought for points. He is driving brilliantly to defend from Giovinazzi. But as we go now onto the final lap of the Grand Prix, this is the last DRS zone, bar the final straight to the finish line, and it looks as if Giovinazzi is just too far behind. Very late on the brakes, but it does manage to get it stopped in time. And you can see going through this complex of corners, it looks as if Giovinazzi is quicker. And as we go now through the high speed turns 11 and 12, Giovinazzi gaining and gaining towards the double right-hander of 13 and 14, and it just isn't quite enough to be able to get past. And now coming through turn 14, of course, very difficult to see with the sun. And is he going to make a lunge down the inside? He does, but there's contact. So Antonio just lets Esteban back through. And there you can see Lewis Hamilton takes a brilliant victory for Mercedes. Giovinazzi getting a little bit out of shape around the final corner. But what a race that was. And P9 on his F1 debut. Brilliant stuff for Antonio Giovinazzi. And shout out to Esteban Ocon for a brilliant drive from him. But there you can see the podium in a Mercedes 1-2. He may have started on pole position, but Kimi Raikkonen could only manage P3. And there it is, the trophy for the Australian Grand Prix, held aloft by Lewis Hamilton. And the champagne is being sprayed on the podium for the first time this season. The Mercedes guys looking very happy, but it's going to be a good battle at the top this season between Mercedes and Ferrari. But yeah, of course, Antonio looking to take possibly Kimi Raikkonen's seat next season. But there you can see the final race results. So driver of the day has got to go to Romain Grosjean, surely. But Antonio, a very good drive from him in P9. And Lance Stroll, Ocon, Giovinazzi scoring their very first points in Formula 1. Jolyon Palmer in the token P11 as per usual. And obviously the driver's standings is currently looking exactly the same as the race results. So in P9 at the moment, and it's looking pretty good for Haas. Seeing as it was a very difficult qualifying for us, we are in P5 in the Constructors' standings with the Force India, a very, very good race for them, and just the 1 point for Williams with 4 Constructors yet to get off the mark. But there you can see now the head-to-head. I'm going to show this at the start and end, I think, of every episode. So yeah, we managed to get one over on Grosjean in qualifying, albeit it wasn't a a great success, but he outscored us in the race and also got a faster lap than us during the race. Podiums and wins, of course, neither of us have got any so far, and he is currently outscoring us 6 points to 2. So yeah, we're going to check in on this just to see, you know, what we're doing in comparison, what Antonio's doing in comparison to his teammate. But boys, that is the end of episode 1 of the F1 2017 Road to Ferrari. I'd love to hear your guys' suggestions down below as to, you know, how I can improve. I'm not trying to say this series is perfect by any stretch, so yeah, always open to suggestions. But I will see you guys later for another F1 2017 video. But until then, guys, do take care. Bye-bye.